In this video, I want to show how you can graph a derivative on a TI-84 or a TI-83. So let's start by going to our y equals, and we're going to work on the graph of e to the x power. So go ahead and graph e to the x, which is an exponential function, and go to zoom, choose number 6, zoom standard. And hopefully this is no surprise, the basic shape of the exponential function y equals e to the x. Now in our y equals and our y sub 2, we're going to go ahead and graph the derivative of e to the x. And to do that on the TI-84, we're going to use our shortcut menu F2. So go alpha F2 to access that shortcut menu. And you will notice that the third one down says n-deriv, and that stands for a numerical derivative. So we'll go ahead and choose number 3. And if you're on an updated TI-84, then you are going to go ahead and see the notation here where you can enter d over dx because we're taking the derivative with respect to x. And then we'll enter the function here. And since this function is a short function, we can go ahead and just enter e to the x power. If it was a really long, complicated function, then we could actually enter y1 here, since we have the function already up in our y1. And then we want this to graph the derivative for all x values. So we're just going to put x here, rather than x equals 1. We'll just say x. So this is going to graph the derivative of e to the x as our second function, our y sub 2. Now, if you're on a color calculator, it'll obviously change the color of these curves. If you're on an older TI-84, you may want to go back and highlight the symbol that is in front of your y sub 2, and you'll have the option to press enter a few times. And although you won't be able to change the color on the older TI-84s, you will be able to change the line type. And so by pressing enter, it'll look a little different on your calculator, but by pressing enter a few times, you can change the type of line that you're going to have graphed. So if you cycle through it, you'll see some of the shading options. And if you keep going to this one that has like a little 0, I call it the bubble on an older TI-84, that will cause there to be a little bubble on this graph, and it just makes it a little clearer to see. Again, on the newer TI-84s that are the color editions, this is really not necessary. Then we're going to go ahead and graph, and you'll see the original function e to the x, and now here comes the derivative, and you can see this little bubble that's traveling along the curve. It's tracing it, and hopefully this allows you to see that the derivative of e to the x is actually e to the x. So this is a function whose derivative is actually the same as the function. So that is how to graph a derivative on a TI-84. If you have a TI-83, then I'll do the rest for you all. So let me change the mode on my calculator to classic, so it's going to function more like a TI-83 or a TI-84 that has not been updated. So you'll go ahead and graph e to the x power in your y1. And then since you don't have the shortcut menu, the F2 menu isn't available on a TI-83, you're going to use the math button. So go to math, and then you'll see number 8 says n-deriv, or numerical derivative, so choose number 8. And then you're going to type in the function first, so our function is e to the x power, comma, the variable that this function is in terms of, which would be x, comma, and then we want it to graph for all x values, so we'll put an x there as well. So this is going to graph the original curve, e to the x, and then the derivative of e to the x. And then once again, if you want to go ahead and change on a TI-83, arrow back so that you're right before the y sub 2, and just press enter a few times. And again, that's going to give you the option to change the line style. And so you'll want to change it. Just keep pressing enter until you get this one that has the little circle. And that will change it for you. And then again, graph, and you'll see the original function e to the x, and then here comes the derivative, and it'll be clear because you'll see the bubble kind of trace it since it happens to be the same. Now let me show you one other thing. Regardless of whether you're on a TI-83 or TI-84, on your home screen you can evaluate derivatives as well. So if we wanted to evaluate a derivative on a TI-83, we'd go Second, Math. Sorry about that. I didn't hit the Math button. Sorry, you don't have to hit Second, just hit the Math button. And go ahead and choose number 8. Then you would put your function in. So if we wanted to do the function e to the x again, since that's what we have been using, comma, the variable that this is in terms of, and then let's say we wanted to calculate the derivative at, let's say, at 5. Well, then you could put the value in the last condition here, and that's going to evaluate the derivative of e to the x at x equals 5, and then return to you a decimal approximation. So once again, let me change my mode over so that I'm on a TI-84. That's been updated. So for you all, you could still use the Math button if you want to, or you can use that shortcut menu, Alpha, F2. My numerical derivative is number 3, and then you would type in d over dx, and then our function, which was e to the x power, and then you would put the value here where you want to compute the derivative. So let's say it's at 5, and then that will return the decimal approximation. And remember, this represents the slope of the tangent line on the curve y equals e to the x at x equals 5.